But I think the worst thing right now that we have on the Hill is this widow tax. I think so many folks just go, well, I'm not worried about that. It won't affect us. They don't realize if you're married, it's going to affect one of you significantly. And the money doesn't stop there if you're giving it to your kids. You have to look at money that's in retirement accounts and understand it's not all yours. And there's a ticking time bomb on the other side of it.
Welcome to Redefine Retirement with Ryan Wheless, powered by Allied Wealth. This podcast explores how to live a limitless life of abundance in retirement with clarity, purpose, and confidence. Welcome to Redefine Retirement with Ryan Wheless. Today I'm joined by Joe Wilson, founder of Omega Wealth Private Capital. With over 20 years in financial services, Joe helps families confidently plan retirement through asset management, income planning, and tax reduction. Known for his jargon-free approach, Joe makes retirement planning understandable, empowering clients to protect their legacy and live with peace of mind. Please welcome my dear friend, Joe Wilson. Yeah, man, it's kind of interesting, Joe. It's the career that we've had and the places that we've gotten to go and the things that we get to do is really interesting. And I really do think that good things happen in life when you go out of your way to help people. And I think you and I are, living proof of the benefits of that, right?
I agree with that.
Some pretty amazing stuff. We got an issue going on in the firm right now where a client had a Roth IRA with us, and we bill accounts accordingly at the firm. But he really didn't want his Roth IRA billed because he's worked so hard to get his money inside this Roth IRA, right? He's like, I'd rather you bill a different account and not bill a Roth IRA at all. And he didn't really communicate that well to us, and he came in for a review, and he wasn't upset. He's like, hey, Ryan, I just, I really don't understand why you guys are building this Roth IRA. I've worked so hard to get as much money in this thing as I possibly can. And I see the bill coming out each month. And I'm like, man, can't we just bill one of my other accounts? And I sat there, and the advisor who serves the account, Justin on my team, great advisor, he's looking at the guy. He's like, well, man, I've done everything right here, but you're a little upset about the billing on this. And I said, Justin, here's what we're going to do. This guy's been a client of ours for 3 years. So we're going to refund every dollar of fees that we charge that guy's Roth IRA, every dollar. And Justin's like, well, man, we've done the right thing here, and I don't know if we should do that or not. I said, Justin, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, bud.
Yeah.
We are blessed. We live great lives, and we are who we are because we take care of the people that we serve, and it's the right thing to do here. So we're going to refund the fees. And Justin gets a percentage of those fees. I'm not taking any out of Justin's pocket at all. I'm going to take care of it myself. At the end of the day, Joe, it's just not that big of a deal to go out of my way to make this guy happy. And to me, it's an investment in the greater good of things that come back to you from serving people well.
Well, it's following the truth of who you are, and that's a fiduciary firm, which is serving in the client's best interest. I love that story, and it is true. And I think it's why you and I decided to have our own firms, become fiduciary independent advisors. I remember, Ryan, and we've talked about this before, and I think I'd be remiss not to touch on it. I was blessed. I started in this industry in the big wirehouses. It was a big box firm, amazing training, some amazing people. But here's what I learned through those years, that the structure of those firms, and they're beneficial, they're fantastic. The desire is to grow the assets. And my God, we need growth. We got to keep up with inflation. I know you're passionate about that, you and your team there. But what was interesting to me, and that I learned, and why I realized I've got to get out of here and start my own, is that truly the shareholders come first. And I have always been in a client first mentality. Let me tell you what I mean by that. I remember when they were coming out with these kind of what we call wrap accounts, or these managed accounts, and what funds go in and what gets put in there. And the company was very excited about it. They were talking about the excellence of this firm. They had hired an independent firm that would select it. And when we got the information on it, we started realizing what managers, different fund managers that were actually managing those assets. What I found very, very interesting, it was very repetitive and very narrow. So I started doing some information. I started looking, they're publicly traded companies, started doing some digging in, started to look and saying, well, how much are these companies paying? Are they paying to be on the platform? And that became a very big issue to me. And it was on that day that I realized when that curtain was pulled back, like Toto pulling the curtain back in The Wizard of Oz, the first time you see it, you realize it's just a man. It exposed something to me, that many of those firms that were on that approved list had really paid to play. And I just did some recent research. Two huge regional firms here in the Midwest, one $315 million, the other one was right around $375 million received in 2024 from firms that have paid to have access to their advisors and to be on their platform. Now, there's good investments in there, but I'd also tell you, based upon years of being in this industry, there's some challenging investments in there. They don't always make sense. And the issue is our clients that when you're out there working 30, 40 years like this gentleman was to put together a nest egg, are you investing in your best interest or is it the firm's shareholders' best interest? Because the goal of the firm was to collect money. That's the purpose of the firm. That at the big wirehouses, they want to make money and let the stock price continue to go. It really was a paradigm shift for me on how this industry truly is structured. And I realized for modern retirees, folks right now trying to survive a 3.4% inflation rate that's been around a 50-year average is actually 3.8%. Do they have enough money to last through that? Has there been true tax planning going, how much money do I end up having to pay at RMDs? And are the investments inside the portfolios truly in the client's best interest or in the firm's? It is exactly just like you told that story, why I do what I do every day. It's why we're passionate about what we do, because to be a true fiduciary firm, the client has to come first.
Yeah, we had a guy down the street from us who's in a strip center and works for a big name firm that we all have heard of. We were talking about tax planning, and he was about to lose the client of his to us, and he flat out told the client, he's like, well, Wheless is not a CPA, and he can't give tax advice, and that's a fact. I'm not a CPA, but I think an advisor has a right and a duty, by the way, to explain how Social Security income is taxable.
Yes.
To explain how IRAs are
yes.
taxable.
Yes.
To explain how Roth IRAs are not taxable.
Yes.
And how every dollar that comes out of your 401k and your pension are 100% taxable to your income rates. I mean, if you're not having conversations with
what
your
are you
clients
doing
about that, it's a disservice. Or, you could have up to $146,000 today if you're over 65 and being an income and being the 12% tax bracket.
It's unbelievable right now. Yeah. Because it's not what you have, it's what you get to keep. And that's
exactly
what's so
right.
important. And it's what our industry has failed on. Coming from those wirehouse firms, I will tell you, we had a compliance officer in our office. No one was allowed to give tax advice, just period. Now, we're not talking about taxes today, like doing your taxes like an accountant who's looking in history of here's what happened last year and reporting it. We're talking about planning the things you just talked about. We were not allowed to really go into depth about that. And when questions were raised, we'd have to say, oh, we're the investment folks. You need to talk to your CPA or your accountant about how that's taxable in the future. That's wrong. And I think the reason that was done is because many firms didn't want the liability, or really also maybe not the challenge of, if we're billing on assets under management. Great example. Sat down last night about 7:30 with a potential client, came in off of our television show. $2.5 million, 64 years old, saved in her IRA. It's an amazing accomplishment that she's done. We sat down and started doing some tax planning and said, hey, if you live to the age of 95, just as a round number, if you average isn't actual, but if you average this rate of return, what are projected possible tax qualifications of you're going to have to be taking out at the age of, and her age 75 required minimum distribution. So we ran some analysis. Here's what we found. On her money, at where she was looking at rate of return wise, it was a $262,000 minimum required minimum distribution starting at the age of 60 or 75. As we go to the age of 80, it was over 300,000. And she's going, I'm going to be in a higher tax bracket in these later years when I'm going to need the money, maybe wants to travel. What if my health deteriorates? And it's not all my money. If I take out 300,000, what if the tax bracket? What if taxes do go up in the future at $37 trillion in debt? Why hasn't my advisor talked to me about this? I asked her that question as well. I said, why have you not talked? His comment was, don't worry about it. Pay it out then. You don't need to worry about that right now. I asked this question then, Ryan, you know where I'm going. Is he billed a flat fee, or is he billed on the assets under management? It was the assets under management. Here's the challenge when it becomes profit shareholder first. If you're billing on $1 million and you have to convert that, not that you would do it all at once, just follow my math. Let's say it's 40%. That's left with $600,000 for that advisor to manage. Ouch. Yuck. Most advisors don't want to take that type of pay cut. They don't want to go to their manager and say, well, we did all these Roth conversions, so my AUM numbers have gone down. I think that's wrong. It needs to be what the client wants, what the client needs. And in this case, this lady was absolutely concerned. She's a single woman, worried about future tax rates, and wanted all of this money to go to her single 32-year-old son. What a tax nightmare that is. Do you think we got the account? We are now setting up times on a plan of how do we unwind this and start to make that less of an impact over the next 6-7 years. That's true planning. You have to look at money that's in retirement accounts and understand it's not all yours. And there's a ticking time bomb on the other side of it.
Well, Ed Slott has been on the podcast with me, and just
what a wealth of knowledge he is. My goodness.
He's just a gem of a human being too. He agrees with me. I've got people that say that healthcare will be your biggest expense in retirement.
It'll be a big one.
I think it's taxes.
I would agree.
The majority of the money saved by people today, they will use to finance their retirement lifestyle is in a tax-infested retirement account.
Exactly.
Right? And so the reality is, if we can help you reduce your tax liability, a couple of things happen. One, your dollars go further.
Yes.
Two, you have to take less income out of your portfolio if you're paying less taxes. Three, if you need less income and less performance, can't you take a slightly lower rate of return and take less risk? Yeah, you can. And if you take less risk, aren't you more comfortable? And don't you worry less? And don't you kind of enjoy retirement more?
Isn't that the whole point?
So.
Yeah.
The whole point, right?
It's the whole point.
Yeah, reducing tax liability can just have a massive trickle effect into the overall quality of life that somebody lives. And what's really interesting, I've had Becky Schwamsberg from Stonewood Financial. You know Becky.
Oh, she's awesome. She sat on the Hill, worked on the Hill for a while. She's a tax
but
aficionado.
She's forgotten more about taxation and lawmaking up there on the Hill about taxes than most people will ever know. And she has an interesting fact. We just had the One Big Beautiful Bill Act pass.
Yes.
And the Trump tax cuts are here to stay. And she doesn't think so, by the way.
Right. I don't think anyone does that understands Washington, D.C. It's legislative risk.
It's exactly right. It's massive. And what I think a lot of people miss is that we have every 2 years election cycles in this country. So you could live through, if you live a 30 to 40 year retirement, you could live through 15 to 20 election cycles.
I call it yard sign. I call it yard sign season, right? You pull up to the traffic light and there's 40 different yard signs. And most people can't remember the names, but the truth is that's such an impactful it's an impactful time to go vote. Why? Because it's those elections that dictate the tax policy on the Hill. You could have a president in and say they want taxes free. The Hill has to pass it through. President could get in and say taxes should be at 50%. It has to go through Congress and the Senate. And you're right. When you're looking at the House every 2 years, man, that's 15 elections. Shot in the blood.
Could be 20.
Yes, as we're seeing longevity living longer. I agree.
And so
it's an area that no one's talking about, and we have to sound the alarm. I'm with you 1,000%. It's not what you have; it's what you get to keep. Before this call, I had someone call me, needed some money out of an account, and we had set up numerous different accounts. They had kind of an unexpected situation come up, and they recently came over from another advisor, had not done any tax planning. They needed $130,000. My question to them was, well, we've got some set up here in this Roth as we're starting to do our plan of Roth conversions. But if you want this out of here, we're going to have to make a very big decision. Do we take it from this investment account or do we take it from this IRA account? And I had to help them understand that if we take $130,000 out of the IRA, we're actually having to take out substantially more because they have to pay taxes on that. It's going to increase their Medicare premiums. And I tried to help them understand the challenge, and that's why we're moving this over. It was so enlightening to them, and they thanked me again, having become clients, because they had never heard that through all their years at the big box firms. And it is an error. I'm with you. It is the largest expense. When you look at that tax bill, Ryan, will not end at your life. I think it's the worst thing. If I ever ran for Congress, and they would never vote for me because I'm too blunt, too direct, just like you, it'd be a lot of fun. We'd get thrown out of there. But I think the worst thing right now that we have on the Hill is this widow tax. My mom and dad
Oh, it's terrible.
been married over 50 years. Mom's got Alzheimer's, more than likely. Dad's 85, doing great, but mom's probably going to pass first. I think it's criminal that the following year, my father's going to have to go from a married filing jointly that he's been in for over half a century and go into the single bracket. And then the tax bill does not stop with him. If he had not done tax planning or have a good advisor that did that, guess what happens then? That tax would come to me, and I would have to spend that money over the next 10 years. I think so many folks just go, well, I'm not worried about that. It won't affect us. They don't realize if you're married, it's going to affect one of you significantly, and the money doesn't stop there if you're giving it to your kids. It's tax planning. I don't know how you do wealth management, retirement planning, and not have a major conversation about what we're talking about right now. People are worried. Think about this, folks, if you're watching this. If you're worried about a 25 or 30% dip in the market, right? No, I don't know, Ryan. Market's at all-time high. It's due for a pullback. That's what the market does. It goes up, it goes down. It's like a yo-yo, right? I'm on an escalator. It tends to go up, but it's volatile times. We're worried about a 25 or 30% dip in the market, and yet so many folks are sitting there with a 30+% hit on every dollar they take out. They're not even thinking about that. It's why the message has to come out loud and clear. And it's why I love that we're independent advisors. It's what we preach and it's what needs to be preached.
A lot of folks, Joe, look at us as investment consultants. And I think that the big box wirehouse firms that we all know out there have painted it financial advisors into being investment consultants. And what is an investment consultant? Well, we help you pick mutual funds and stocks and bonds and allocations and that sort of thing. And that is what we do. Make no mistake about it. And we're both very good at that. But that's not where it ends with us. There's so much more to it.
That's right.
And so a lot of what we do on the advanced planning stuff is tax focused. All right. And the tax side of things is such an important thing. But there's also the Medicare planning, right? The healthcare planning, the legacy and estate planning stuff that we do. Wealth
How does it all
strategies,
work together?
Wealth protection strategies.
Yes.
Exactly. How does it all work together? And so once you've got those pieces in play, Joe, people tend to feel more confident and more relaxed and enjoy life more. But don't you feel like it's kind of like the broker, right, at the big box retail firm that people go to because, my gosh, I've seen their commercials on the PGA championships for years, right?
Yeah.
Or my mom and dad had money there, okay?
Yeah.
And the fact that they've been around for so long and people feel so secure because they've seen that name as a household brand their entire lives, they migrate toward that safety and feeling of comfort. But the reality is that they are investment consultants. They don't go above and beyond and do the kind of planning that we do at our level. And that's just such an important thing. For instance, Ed Slott was blown away when I talked to him about this on my podcast, with the tax planning stuff. I'm doing this with my mom and dad. My dad just retired from United Airlines. And so one of the conversations we were having was, he's got a substantial amount of money, after-tax money. Then he's got his 401k. And he was going to start using his after-tax money for it. I said, Dad, don't do that. He said, well, why not? He's like, I've already paid the tax on this money. I don't want to pay the taxes. I said, Dad, here's what you can understand. I want you to use the IRA money first because your taxes in the future will be much higher in the future than they are today in a big way.
Yes.
Okay. And that's because, even though these cuts are here right now, they're not going to stay here. Our country is $37 trillion in debt, and that's rapidly climbing every day.
Yes.
And you cannot have one of I think we're the top 3 best tax environments in history.
Yeah, it's third best.
And then we kept talking, and I talked to him about the widow's tax that you just mentioned, right? And he was like, he didn't know that, and he was surprised to hear that. And then I ran a quick calculation on my calculator on my iPhone, my time value money calculator, and showed him what his RMDs would be.
Probably fell over.
And then he's younger than my mom, but and I said, listen, one of you dies. I don't care who dies first. One of you dies. Here's what happens: the RMDs have to keep coming.
That's right.
Okay, and you're going to pay the more tax than the RMDs you have coming in.
That's right.
He's like, son, my current guy's not talking to me about this.
They never do.
He can't. Okay, it's not he's a bad guy. I know who he is. I'm glad you work with a guy.
Yeah.
But I don't want to manage your money, but help me manage your taxes. And I said, let me go one step further. At some point in time in the future, okay, when I know things are good with you guys, I know there's going to be some inheritance coming my way and my brother's way. And I said, so Dad, at some point in time, I'm going to come to you and say, listen, I'm going to start doing Roth IRA conversions for you, and I'm going to pay the tax. I'm going to pay the tax because I would rather pay the taxes on that money when it comes my way at your tax rates
Yes,
versus
than
what my
yours.
tax rates are.
Yes.
Okay. One of those things too, Joe, that we spend time talking about the tax situation is how people get into what we call the composition of accounts being lopsided towards tax invested retirement accounts once they get to retirement, right? And you mentioned the 401k. We talked about it. It was introduced to the Internal Revenue Code back in 1978. And initially it was there to supplement pension income and give some people some opportunity to grow some capital outside their pension.
That's correct.
But companies started seeing, oh my gosh, people are starting to live longer than 12 years, and these pension things are tough to manage.
Well, and
we
interest
may
rates
be in a
changed.
situation, and interest rates changed
In the
And
80s.
yeah, they were, back in 80, was it 82? You could put $1 million in treasury bills and have 140,000 a year in income.
My dad bought
Right.
the house that he's currently in now, bought it. And I said, Dad, what'd you pay for this house? We moved there in 1982. And I think he said he was at 16.5 when he first got the loan. I about fell over. Rates were high. And then they weren't. And it affected the pensions. I interrupted you, but you're right.
Well,
keep preaching.
The ability to safely produce the return needed to cover the pension obligations eroded, and then they had to shift over to the market. And the people, the actuaries, and people running the pension fund managers were like, guys, we don't know if we can do this. And so the companies are like, hey, this 401k thing, which is not supposed to replace the pension to begin with, is here. Let's give a company match. Let's let people participate in the stock market. And ultimately what we had from 1980 to the year 1999 was the largest melt up in history, in the U.S. history of the markets. We were up 1,300%, 100%.
Yeah, unbelievable.
That's never happened in any 20-year period prior to that. It's never happened, okay? And the reason why it was, Joe, is we had a lot more dollars chasing a few stocks. And we had all this stuff flowing into the market, and we had the melt up. Well, now that vehicle has been the 401k, and so people are in a situation to where their assets or the money they're going to use to finance retirements in these 401ks. All right. Well, what can you do now? Like if you're somebody in your 50s, if you're somebody in your 40s, if you're 55, what can you do now? Right? Do you put every dollar that you can in the 401k? Is that the right thing to do? Do you take advantage of the company match and then put money somewhere else? Like what do you do, Joe?
Well, I can tell you what we recommend. I can tell you what my wife. I'm getting ready to turn 50. She's 49. Angela's an amazing worker. Works at a fabulous Fortune 500 company in marketing. Here, she'll work forever just because she's just a workaholic like me, and she'd probably kill me if she came to work here together.
Oh, well, if you retire, she's definitely going to kill you.
Yeah. So, I'll be working forever. I've had her a lot of golf. She's like, get out of this house now.
Yes.
But with her, for years, we would just put up to her match because it was free money and we wanted the free money. And then we did more tax efficient planning dollars on top of that. But what's amazing is a few years ago, they adopted the Roth 401k. And so we're doing well. We're doing very financially well. She does well. Business here is fantastic here in Cincinnati. We got a new office in Northern Kentucky and one in Indianapolis. I realized that if she were to max out her 401k, we'd get a nice tax deduction on those dollars today. But because we've just been harping on it, that's the last thing either one of us want is to grow a tax time bomb. So what she does is she utilizes that Roth 401k along with other great tax advantage situations, because now we're taking it on the chin today, but we're in the third lowest bracket and allows all of that growth. And Lord willing, if the creek don't rise, as you all say down south, let's hope that we have another 20 years that could be amazing. I hope that's the case. And at 70, we've got another monster pile of money. But here's the difference. If she put it in her 401k, it's not all ours. But if she puts it in that Roth, baby, that stuff is coming out tax free. That is just one of several tools that I know you all use there in Houston and across Texas, Louisiana, where you are. And it's what we're doing here in the Midwest. And it's absolutely imperative that Gen X, our generation, understands these rules. Because here's the other thing. When you look at how many dollars are sitting right now in what we call qualified accounts, it is an astronomical amount, almost $40 trillion and more right now that's in these tax later accounts. Look at this baby boomer generation, the folks that we see coming in every day, meeting with us, and the tax time bombs they have. I don't think people realize that over the next 15 years, $85 trillion is anticipated to go from the baby boomer generation to our generation, the Gen X, and on down the millennials and on down. $85 trillion. If you are in the Gen X period now and you're contributing to a tax time bomb, you're going to see these baby boomers, just like you explained with your dad, that if they're not doing the proper planning, is going to pass an additional tax bomb on top of you. It can be fixed, but you have to take action now. And that's what I would tell everyone, all of our friends. Boy, sometimes we go out to dinner. I'm not the fun guy because I bring this stuff up. And what's amazing to me is it will turn the whole night into these conversations of just educating, because our country has been terrible and our industry has been terrible about helping future retirees and modern retirees understand how to save most tax efficiently. And it is the biggest risk.
Yeah, my friend Tom Hagna and also Ed Slott, they say, listen, Ryan, why would you want to leave a beneficiary like your son or your daughter an IRA?
It's the worst thing
life
possible.
Insurance. Leave them life insurance.
Yeah.
Right? The life insurance is tax free. It will never you'll never pay tax on it again. People are like, well, life insurance is not the best deal. It's not about the best deal or the bad deal. It's about saving taxes.
Yeah.
And we can show you side by side comparisons of funding a life insurance policy for legacy purposes over a period of time, and versus leaving that tax-free death benefit behind your beneficiaries, spending all your IRA dollars, by the way, enjoying it all, spend it all. Okay?
You should.
Yeah, and then still leaving a substantial inheritance behind, yet using some of those IRA dollars to pay the premiums of the life insurance policy. Side-by-side comparison in a rising tax rate environment.
Crushes it.
There's just no comparison.
Every dollar needs a particular job to do. You need money that hopefully, if you want, it's your dollars. If you want to create a legacy and pass that on to the next generation, there's a way to do that uninformed and pay higher taxes, or there's a way to do that informed and pay less. Give every dollar. This is for income. This is for legacy. This is for growth. This is for the next 15 years of European vacations. Whatever your why is, set dollars aside and assign a job, because the job of those dollars determine their placement. Too many people are placing it all in one pocket. Yeah. It is the description of those assets that determines the placement inside the portfolio. If folks can understand that.
One size fits all, 60-40 portfolio, take out 4% a year. We'll charge you fees until the cows come home, and we'll see you later, right? Call if something changes.
It works if the market works. I don't want to live my greatest years of my life when I do decide to hang up my coat, put on golf cleats, play golf, and go home and ride some horses. When I decide to do that, I do not want to be glued to these televisions that I'm glued to 24 hours a day and worried, is it up? Is it down? Will I have enough money? Nay. There is a better way.
The reality is that, a good plan to me is, it's kind of like a flight plan, bud. I mean, I have an app on my phone. It's called ForeFlight. If I'm going to go, like we went to Asheville, North Carolina to see my grandfather, who's 95, by the way.
What a pretty place that is.
Yeah. And so, my dad's riding right seat. He's got 30,000 hours of flight time. He definitely knows what he's doing, right? But I pull this app out and I look at our distance that we're going. I look at how much fuel we're going to use, okay? And I go, all right, is there any weather along the way? We've got radars, there's thunderstorms we got to go around.
You're going in the mountains.
When we get to Asheville, is there any weather in Asheville? Like, do we have to shoot an instrument approach, to get down? And if we do that and we don't see the runway, where's the next airport we go to around there?
Plan B.
To plan B, right? Where do we go? And then when we get to that airport, is it clear weather, or do we have to shoot another instrument approach? And if we do we have enough fuel to go to the next place? And these are all things that we're going through. How much fuel can we carry? How much weight can we be for the temperature it is outside? The point is, Joe, is that when we roll out on the runway and I point the nose of that aircraft down that runway and line up and bring the power up on those engines, I know what's happening. I know what's going on. I am confident. And why am I confident? I'm confident because I took the time to plan the flight.
Yes.
And I looked at the variables along the way. and I looked at what could have come up, and I had a situation ever in mind of an out, extra fuel, a different place to go, a different route to take, to where I knew without question, that airplane was going to arrive at the destination we were going to safely on the ground.
You had the
And guess what?
you plan for the certainty of uncertainty.
Exactly, right? And
I think,
so it's just such an important thing that, that's what planning is. And so retirement planning to me is a lot the same way. And there's so many unknowns and gotchas that people don't even know about that are out there and exist. Okay. Like we talk about IRMA, right? Income related monthly adjusted amount for Medicare. That's just one little gotcha. Okay. Or not going on Medicare at 65 and not being on group coverage and having to pay penalties. I mean, just
yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah.
The taxes, okay? All of this stuff can be planned around, but ultimately, a good plan puts you in a situation to where you can go out into the world in retirement and spend money with confidence.
What you've done is you've given every bit of that flight time a job to do, because you have planned out the fuel, the distance, and you've given it a job. That's exactly what we just talked about. And I love that example you just gave, because ask yourself, if you're watching this and you're coming across this and you go, what are these two dudes talking about? Do you know where to get money when the bad years happen? Do you have a place? Do you have dollars in your portfolio? Have you given it a job? Have you given it the purpose? That's to get income when things are not pretty. This is where I'm going to get income when it's perfect and sunny out. Just as you have a flight plan, if storms arise, where you need to go. I think every retiree, every saver needs to truly understand what happens if. And if you can plan your dollars that way, boy, could you imagine being on that flight plan and you didn't have any of that already done, and you look out and there's a big old thunderstorm and you haven't done any plan, and you're like, dear God, do we have enough fuel to divert? What do we do? Yet it happens every day. You see accidents happen every day, and we see it in retirement every day too.
If we took that airplane off without any flight plan whatsoever, I can tell you right now, I've been in aviation since I was 12 years old. I'm 48 now. It would be absolutely terrifying, with as much flight experience as I have and as many airplanes as I've flown. To take off that airplane with no plan whatsoever would be absolutely terrifying. It just would. And I think that's important, because a lot of folks are going into their golden years they might think they have a plan and they don't, or they have no plan at all. All right. And it's got to be terrifying. It's got to be, you hear something on the news, you hear something politically, you're in a friend circle and hear something, and it's got to be a constant wall of worry in your way. And it just doesn't have to be that way. I mean, by God, you worked the last 30 or 40 years. You did without, you saved money, right? Put the dollars to work for you in a way where you can go out and enjoy life. And that starts with a solid plan.
It has to. I will tell you this. I think I know I had a dream job growing up. I'm sure you did as well. I love what I do. Growing up, I couldn't wait to work at a men's clothing store. I was so excited when I applied.
That's where the style comes from.
That's it, man. I was 16. My dad is a sharp dressed man. He grilled that in me from day one. And I remember going to the mall. I was 16, had my license, and I applied at this store. And the manager was so nice. We had shopped there and said, I'd love to have you, but we don't hire people under 18. So I went down the street and worked at another men's store, the competitor. And on my 18th birthday, I walked down. I said, here's my application. He was still the manager, and he said, you're hired, because I just built a relationship with him. I was so excited. Imagine, though, if I had done that and came home and told my parents I got in. I got my dream job at 18. And they asked me how much I was going to get paid. And my answer was this: I don't know. My boss just said, don't worry about it. I'll be fine. What kind of, they would have looked at me like, boy, what's wrong with you? Do you not understand the fact? But like you just said, hopping in a plane and taking out of the plane bed, don't worry about it. You'll be fine. I think we got enough fuel. It's what the modern retirees day in and day out are doing right now. When they are retiring and they have not done proper planning, and their advisor goes, RMDs, don't worry about it. You'll be fine. Inflation, we're close. We've got a little bit in there. You'll be fine. What happens if healthcare rises? Where are you going to get your money? What happens if we have 2 or 3 years of down market? There's going to be more good years than bad years, but where do you go to get the money? Don't worry about it. You're going to be fine. And so many folks will leave that job for their dream job to spend 30 plus years in retirement to go be the CFO and CEO of your company, your retirement company, to go and travel the world and do the trips and visit the grands and go to the Disney, as my kids called it growing up. I can't imagine doing that on the advice of, you'll be fine. Don't worry about it. You need a written plan. I love what you guys do in Houston. I know that's what we do here. There must be a plan for those uncertain times, because if you can plan for it, it makes life a lot more adjustable.
Indeed, brother. Well, that'll wrap it up for today's podcast, folks. I hope you enjoyed this totally unscripted, just Joe and I having a conversation.
I enjoyed it.
Indeed, my friend. We'll do it again soon. Joe, thanks so much for joining us today, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. Love what you guys are doing. Love this podcast. It's awesome. Appreciate the invite.
Subscribe to Redefine Retirement on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.